We have two presentations in Zoom from our Georgian colleagues, and well, we'll wait a bit. Oh, great. Hello, Tamar.
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's better.
Yes, it's better.
Okay. My work is about specific of the conservation and restoration of miniature paintings. In the art of manuscript decoration, the miniature represents a small image distinguished in its delicate execution. There are several directions in miniature painting. Variety of schools have existed in different eras and countries, creating small-scale works of art. All culture have had paid a part in contributing to the development of this field. Differences have existed in the materials, days, style of execution, techniques, expressed languages, symbols, and narratives used. Especially significant developments have taken place in miniature painting since the Middle Age as means for illuminating manuscripts. In the case of codex manuscripts, the frequent flipping of pages, the impact of heavy objects placed at the top of them, as well as the unfolding and curling of scrolls over time affects the physical condition of small and delicate images. The samples that we receive are often a quite damaged state. Typically, the most common types of damages we come across are in the form for a paint layer arising from a damaged primer layer, the separation of the primer layer from the base and cracking, peeling, or the overall determination of paint caused by moisture. Each specific
Tamara?
case. Yes.
I'm sorry. You have presentation, not like presentation, but I don't know
okay.
if you see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for interruption. F5,
okay.
maybe.
Okay. Appropriate methods and restoration materials are selected in the process of conservation based on preliminary research case studies conducted for each individual objects. The medieval Georgian Mokwi Gospel manuscript was transcribed in 1300 in Abkhazia, in the Church of the Mother of God in Mokwi. The Mokwi Gospel is known for its lavishly illuminated miniatures and ornaments. It is unique among the world existing monuments. Its miniatures have been executed entirely on gold leaf covered ornaments. The Gospel of Mokwi was transcribed on the order of Daniel of Mokwi. This is evident from the last page of manuscript, depicting the Virgin Mary with child and Bishop Daniel. The Mother of God is standing with Daniel kneeling in front in her. There is a capital inscription on top of Bishop Daniel's illustration, which reads, Daniel Mokweli, Archbishop. Bishop Daniel donated the Gospel of Mokwi to the Church Mokwi built in the name of Mother of God. Ephraim was the transcriber of the Gospel of Mokwi, and he illuminated and decorated this manuscript also. The Gospel of Mokwi was stored in the library of Galati Monastery in the 1880. In the 1921, it was transported by Écriture to France for security purposes, along with other national treasures from Georgia. The manuscript only was returned in Georgia in 1945. Currently, the Gospel of Mokwi is preserved in National Center of Manuscript in Tbilisi. A diagnostic of the manuscripts was carried out from 2011 to the 2014. with the involvement of UNESCO, Georgian society, and government. Austrian, German, and Swiss specialists Andrea Pataki-Hund, Andrea Giovannini, and Magdalena Lipke were invited to Tbilisi after diagnostics. The Center of Laboratory, with the help of Andrea Pataki-Hund, and conducted consolidation of 150 miniatures. Struger and glue and Mobiol were used for the preservation of the miniatures, taking into account the dire condition of the miniature. We see signs of strong cracking and peeling paint layer. A long hired brush with 2% glue and ethanol mixture was used to apply the adhesive on the contour of the paint layer. The glue didn't touch the surface of the miniatures. Areas where it was impossible to apply the adhesive mixture with a brush, especially on the heavily damaged areas, were reinforced with the aerosol adhesive. There were three such cases. A decision was made to make separate paper files for each folios due to unique condition of the manuscript, and then the folios divided into three parts were stored in archival boxes. This was done so that the weight of the sheets did not damage the miniature further. Damage to this manuscript has occurred primarily due to the artist's violation of the technical methodology, as the miniature was executed directly on the gold leaf surface, on which the paint had a poor grip, and as the parchment was deformed, gold layer would shift and cause damage to the paint. A study was carried on the paint layer during the conservation process. Various mineral pigments were found along with plant pigments and albumen. Gypsum particles were also identified. The manuscript is currently abound to security concerns. The condition of the parchment is satisfactory. Manuscript diagnostics are periodically carried out, and if damage is detected, it is consolidated locally. The manuscript isn't available for display in the reading room, but there is a digital copy of it for researchers to access as they wish. It is a different case when miniature painting is done on wood or some other base material other than parchment or paper. This requires a different approach because the layer of paint is applied on a relatively thick primer. It is paint layer is damaged. It often means that the painting and primer layers has also been damaged. In such a case, additional work is necessary as special conservation is not sufficient. The Gospel Q920 was transcribed in 1504. The manuscript was executed on parchment and decorated with its contents being in a satisfactory condition. Unique the wooden boards of cover. Wooden plates covering holy relics set inside the recto side of the board under embossed cover have been illuminated with tempera paint. The paint and primer were badly damaged. There was loss of material in many places and areas. In this case, we used the same methodology that we use when we're restoring icons. The research process determined the type of paint, tempera, primer composition, chalk, and adhesive animal-based. Sugar and glue is used for the conservation of miniatures. The primer was hardened with 6% glue in the next stage. The paint layer was hardened using 4-5% glue, and defective areas were filled with the restoration primer composed of chalk. Toning was executed using aquarelle. The surface was coated in thin layer of varnish. Here you see it. Unlike the examples shown above, Georgian manuscripts, Oriental manuscripts were drawn in a different manner. Although here too, we often find richly decorated miniatures, the same in the European manuscripts. They were made with mineral and plant pigments, plant juice and carmine. Plant gum was used as binder. Gold ink was abundantly used to decorate the miniatures. E.L. The Bustan of Saad from 1527 was transcribed using Oriental paper, plant and mineral pigments, and gold ink. The type of ink and paint were determined during the research process. The miniature exhibited minimal damage, although there were signs of minor cracking and negligible loss of paint. A solution of high quality starch and metal cellulose was used to conservation. Adhesive was applied along the cracks using a thin brush and avoid accidental application on the paint layer. The miniatures were dried with a lightweight roll in order to avoid damage to the paint texture. The restoration of the manuscript page was handled in parallel with the reinforcement of the miniatures. The manuscripts were rebound due to the book having parallelly collapsed. The cover was restored and the book was returned back to its. These 3 different restoration cases is an example how highlighted how essential is to find different solutions during each process. Every manuscript, like a living patient in medicine, requires an individual approach, taking into account their condition.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Really difficult and complex
Thank you very much.
restorations. Maybe someone in auditory can and will ask something. Our auditory has you in mind, and in case we'll write your to email. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.